You have been unmuted. That's okay. I thought it said you've been muted. And the rest of you are saying, yeah, do us a favor. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Live Irish Myths, number 256, isn't it? Yes, slight change of subject this week. I decided we'll give the old medieval Ireland a break just for 1 week. And given that today is the 18th of December, and we are only days away now from the shortest day of the year and the minimum declination of the sun, I thought, well, why not change the subject and talk about Newgrange for, pardon me, it's not like we haven't spoken about Newgrange before. I know, right? But we can't get enough excitement about Newgrange and Solstice. So I made a mistake in my announcement last week about, my activities at Newgrange. I said I was going to be at Newgrange every day, every morning from Monday through Saturday, the 18th through the 23rd, to provide photographs, live streams, posts and updates, blogs, videos, etc. And then the OPW got in touch and said, actually, Anthony, we're not open to the public on the morning of the 18th, which is unusual. That's the way it used to be: 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 6 days. But this year it's 19th to the 23rd. So from tomorrow morning. The bad news, if you've been reading the comments, because Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter, who's the first in the house tonight, was saying it's 17 Celsius there. And we had 14 Celsius here today, which is quite high for the time of year. Of course, you'll know, because I've said it before, but in case you don't know, in Ireland in the winter time, we have two types of weather. We have cloudy and rainy and mild, or we have sunny and clear and cold, generally. Sorry, I was finishing a message that I wanted to send to Rex. Rex was saying 65 Fahrenheit, that's 18 Celsius in Ireland. We call that summer. So, unfortunately, the weather forecast for the week is that it's going to be mostly cloudy. It's going to be mild and mostly cloudy. This is to do with the high pressure being south of us, I think, but it's pushing away the worst of the lows, which means that it won't hopefully rain too heavily and hopefully won't do too much wind. But for those of us gathered at Newgrange, we mightn't see any sun entering the monument. On yesterday morning, Sunday, it was totally cloudy, but just at dawn, there was a break in the clouds in the southeast, and the sun appeared to shine into Newgrange. So that may be the only one. We'll see. But the Irish weather is very capricious, changeable, hit and miss. Gaps could open in clouds. We keep the fingers crossed. I go there anyway. The last day, the 23rd last year, Tom King and I went, and there were very few people at Newgrange because it was raining heavily. And I had requested special permission from the OPW to go into the chamber and take some photographs, which I did. I'll probably share those with you. I think I've shared them all at this stage. They were shared earlier on in the year with patrons, Mythical Ireland patrons. So if you're ever looking to get stuff first and exclusively, you see that scrolling address there, patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Well, if you go to patreon.com/Mythical Ireland and pledge to become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you will get access, early and exclusive access to photographs, videos, blog posts, podcasts, updates, and more. I've been very busy with Patreon lately. All of the new series of images involving LED lighting are being shared with patrons first. The Moncon McGann interview has dropped and is viewable by patrons at the Stone Age level and above. That's $5 a month and above. If you want to see it first, become a patron. And you know what? If you want to watch the Moncon conversation, become a patron for a month and then ditch it a month later if you want, or stay, please. Anyway, let's get, first of all, before we start talking about Solstice proper, and also Dowth may be opening in the afternoon of Thursday. But unfortunately, that announcement by the OPW has been shared far and wide, and I suspect the place will be thronged because it hasn't been open since before the pandemic. I'm kind of in two minds as to whether to go myself. There are still places available, a few tickets available for the first of the 2 solstice tours at Fornox. I am hosting Winter Solstice tours of Fornox on Thursday, the 21st. There's a tour at 10:30 a.m. and there's a tour at 12 noon. The 12 noon tour is booked out. There are still tickets available for the 10:30 tour. How do you get them? If you're in Ireland or if you're going to be here on Thursday, you go to mythicalireland.com and you go to the tours page and you will see the tour there and you can book through the website. Anyway, I better say hello to some people. Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter is the first in the house. It was 17 Celsius today, which she describes as nice. We had a high of 14, which is quite high for the time of year. So not much in it, Elaine, huh? Wow. Wayne Bird says, hello, Anthony. Hope everyone is well and keeping safe. The color photos of the LED lights are excellent. Brilliant podcast. Yeah, because some of them are, I don't know. I'll share them all, but some of them I think are a little bit garish or something. Maybe the colors. There's a candle set. Why don't I show you? Hang on a second. First rabbit hole of the day. Why don't I show you? Give me 1 second. So this is one of said LED lights. Thank you very much, Joe Monks, creative, who was interviewing me at Fornox in relation to preserving our heritage. And he lit up the monument beautifully. And he gifted me one of these. And I liked it so much that I went and bought another one. So wait till you see this, right? So there are multiple settings. Luke, I am your father. That looks really weird. So that is flame. That's the flame setting. That's flame 2. So you can see, like, if you were making a video and that was off, you know, that would look like there was a fire beside you, right? Now there's some sort of very funny things here. There's like police, dodgy, ambulance, fire truck, strobe light. Sorry, if you've got photosensitive epilepsy, I do apologize. I should have announced that first. Look away now, please. Just trying to find the candle. Oh God, there's so many settings. That one's called romantic. That was just called flash, which is obviously like a camera flash. I do apologize. I'm deadly serious about the sorry, I should reduce the intensity as well. It's up at 100% for some reason, the brightness. I'm trying to find the one that's called, so that's called TV screen. So, you know, it produces like a flicker. This is the one. This is the one that's called candle, this setting, and it flickers. So if I just leave it there, it looks like I'm sort of being lit up by a glowing candle. Anyway, I do apologize, as I say, for not announcing that I was going to be flashing strobing lights during this episode. I wasn't expecting to do so. Rex Fortenberry is saying season's greetings from a cool and comfortable South Louisiana. 65 Fahrenheit, that's 18 Celsius. May the solstice light shine upon you all. Thank you, Rex, and the same right back to you, of course. Brenda at Ananda Centre in Slane is getting excited about the solstice. No wonder. Sure, look, between Slane and Drogheda lies Bhrú na Bóinne. Sure, we share it, and the world is jealous of us because we live so close to it. Isn't it wonderful? Anna L, not that they're jealous, it's wonderful that we live close to it. Anna L is saying good evening. Anthony and the two pre-solstice greetings from Balbriggan. Brilliant stuff, Anna L. Wonder if you're intending to visit Newgrange over the next few days. Michael Pike is in the house. Gee, of Anthony and Tua. Good afternoon to you, Michael, and happy birthday. One of 2 regular Mythflix viewers whose birthday is today. I think it's today, isn't it? Michael, happy birthday. I hope you are in good form. Valencia is in Glastonbury. I hope it's a nice evening over the pond, Valencia. Thank you for joining us. Or Burgess, whose first name I can't bloody remember, I apologize, is saying hello from a very wet New York. Well, come here, listen, you keep it over that side of the Atlantic. We don't want your very wet. We certainly don't need it this week when it is the week of Newgrange solstice. Michael Pike, Tom King. Karen asked me to tell you that she's proudly wearing here the beautiful swan pendant you made for her. She's also working on a poem for you. Lovely stuff. Excellent. And of course, Look, we have to, don't we? Just to say, if you're interested in a hand-forged item by Tom King on Goa, you can order one through the Mythical Ireland website, and I will share the link there, including the swan spiral pendant that Michael is talking about. But I'm just trying to find where I was. I apologize. Not Michael. Yes, Michael was talking about. Yes, indeed. Jacqueline Kelly Adams is in the house. Happy solstice and Christmas to you, Jacqueline. I hope all is well in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest. Anne McCallum is saying hello to the mighty Tua. Hope everyone's in great form. A chilly, cloudy, rainy, snowy day. That sounds very Irish. Glad to be indoors listening to another episode of Live Irish Myths. Brilliant stuff, Anne. And you're welcome as always. Hope you're nicely settled down for the solstice week, watching as the sun reaches its halting point and ready to see it moving back up the horizon again. I pray for these days. Yeah, this is as low as the sun goes, and this is pretty much as short as the days go. Apparently, the latest sunset was a few days ago, and the sunset is now. Sorry, the earliest sunset was a few days ago. So now the sunset is going back later. Brendan Byrne is in the house. Happy Christmas and happy solstice to you, Brendan. Hope all is well down in Glendalough. Northern California has heavy rains this week. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I know, because you get, fires and everything over there. Lexi Erickson is in the house. Solstice blessings to you, Lexi. Thank you for joining us and for your blessings. Fake it, says Lily. You see, this is the problem. I read comments that are 5 or 8 minutes old, and I don't know what they refer to. Sorry, running on wizard time today. Winter greetings to all, says Lily. Well, thank you, and many happy returns. Many happy returns of the Hibernia season to you. Ivania Lee says, top of the morning from New Zealand. God bless you. That was the loudest sneeze I think I've heard in ages. And that was my missus. Hello, Anne. Everybody say hello, Anne. God bless you. Top of the morning from New Zealand, says Ivania Lee. Good morning to you, Ivania. Thank you for joining us. Happy Tuesday to you. From all of us who are still in Monday, Barbara Murphy. Happy Mythflix to everyone. Warm high 70s for almost another week in Tucson, then down 10, then another 10. So I'll be closer to everyone else. Probably the only time of the year where some of us actually get close in temperature. Barbara, always a pleasure to welcome another Murphy to the house. And Lexi is in, of course, sunny Denver. Very nice. Sheila Gunn is glad to be on today, sporting a headache and a sore mouth after a 2-hour disappointment after coming back from Mexico on Saturday. So I may not be able to say, oh, Sheila, sorry to hear that. But thank you for joining us nevertheless. Sue Prenter watched the Moncon interview today. Brilliant stuff. Delighted that you enjoyed it, Sue. And honestly, the time flew. I think we could have spoken for several hours. And I think people would have listened for several hours, but you know yourself. Good things must come to an end, But hopefully we'll get another chance. As I said, second of many, because we had our virtual conversation during the lockdowns. Desiree Riley, who is the other Mythflixer whose birthday is today, had a really rough week. Got really bad news about a loved one midweek. I'm just happy today I'm with I'm very sorry to hear that. Me after being very, very cheerful. Wow. Well, we'll send all our good thoughts and prayers to you and your loved one, Desiree. And happy birthday. As happy as it can be under the circumstances. We're all sending you good wishes. Geroj O'Branagon. Geroj, I wonder, hello, first of all, good evening to you. I wonder whether we will see you at Newgrange in the coming mornings. I'm sure we will. It's become something of a tradition in latter years. Hippiest, says Sue Prenter. Was it hippiest or hippest? Yeah, hippiest or hippie. You ask the hippiest questions. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's the two sides of the brain working, Rex lives for rabbit holes. Good stuff. Sheila is sending hugs to Desiree. Lily is saying, oh, lightsaber. Yes, I am your father. Tuesday Thompson is saying happy Mythology Monday. Many happy returns, Tuesday Thompson. Hello, watching on YouTube. T is in the house, says I and an I. I think that's an I anyway. romantic. The look on his face. Did anyone else notice? It's a while ago now. I'll have to go watch the rerun later on. Adrian O'Beglin is in the house. Conas atá to Adrian Falchimore. Who is that? Maria Grazia Nelia. Good evening from Italy. Brilliant stuff. Buona serata. I know a few words of Italian. Oh, so ciao. Buona serata. Lovely to see you. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy the episode. Caitlin Moon is in a very stormy Maryland. Well, you should have stayed in Dublin because it's very bland. I'm joking. Of course. Caitlin, wonderful to see you. And I hope you're having a good afternoon across the ocean. And I hope you're planning on coming back, by the way. Kathy, I don't know how to pronounce that. IFT, IFFT, it looks like. I was at Newgrange this spring from Washington State. Amazing. Yeah, isn't it something else, Kathy? Fantastic stuff. Not sure if we've seen you before, so you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Hope you stick around, and it's nice to see you. Alana Hudis is saying hello from the Pacific Northwest. Northwest. No, that's not a typo. That's like a joke I heard the other day. Whoever decided to put the S in fast food is a marketing genius. There you go. Alana, always a pleasure. Hope you're in good form. Adina Sparks is in the house. Greetings, Anthony, and all the two this solstice week. Hope all are well. Good form here. Hope we can share that around. Yes, a few people saying hello to Anne, whose sneeze undoubtedly wasn't just heard around the world on the live stream, but was actually heard across Drogheda in reality. Desiree, yeah, sure, what can we say? Just wrap a hug of love around her, everybody. Valerie Gallagher is saying hello from a rainy, windy Pudley, Rhode Island. Okay, I'm getting a theme here that it's quite wet across the ocean, and I'm kind of saying let's put up a wall this week to keep all that away from Newgrange so we can enjoy the solstice. Irish technical thinker who is Marcus. My partner's birthday in 3 days, and she was born on a beautiful day of the solstice. Yeah, what a day of the year to have your birthday. Happy birthday to her in advance of the special occasion. Marcus, you might tell us her name so we can give her. You may have done before, but I do forget. Michael Trott is saying greetings from the south, also New Zealand. To have a good northern solstice. Christmas overcast and a little humid. Showers expected 25 Celsius. Wow. Happy summer solstice to you, Michael. You're into your summer solstice week, and I hope it's a good one for you. Martina Linsky is in the house. Jigwich, Martina, no better place to be than with the two, says Desiree. I'm so glad that you think that. Somebody says lightsaber. It's not a lightsaber anyway. It's an LED light. It's for photography, and it's getting some interesting uses. I'm back in Dublin, second week in January. Brilliant. I thought maybe for a minute Maryland were stealing you back, you know. Steve Martinson is here. I'm anticipating some good jokes from you today, Anthony. Nobody anticipates good jokes from me. You know my track record. They're terrible jokes. How could you possibly anticipate a good joke? Steve, you're very welcome. It's good to see you. Tom King is here. Happy birthday, Michael. Bless you, Anne. Happy birthday, Desiree. Another virtual hug sent to you from the Boyne Valley, my dear friend. Look at that. And you see, Tom has this flickering glow on his face all the time, but it's from a real fire. It's the forge in Bohermeen, the forge of the smooth road. Whereas I'm just cheating with a flickering LED light. But I like it. I'm just going to leave it there now. However, you are good in Italian, says Maria Grazia. Just as you say in Irish, cúpla focal, a couple of words is all I have. And Caitlin Moon wishing happy birthday to the birthday-ers. The sneeze heard around the world. That has potential, says Michael Pike. Yeah, I don't know if there's some new form of energy we could get from that, you know. The full Irish Gary's in the house. Good evening, great and good evening, great and Tua. Great and good Tua. Another fine day on the sod. Yeah, except for it was cloudy all day long. But anyway, sure, look, you know, it is what it is. Rachel is her name. Thanks, Anthony. Happy birthday in advance to Rachel, whose birthday is on Winter Solstice. Brilliant. Winter Solstice in Western Europe this year is on in the early hours of the 22nd. But the official celebrations are on the 21st at Newgrange. That's the big day, as we say, the day when everybody arrives at the monument. Joe Butler, speaking of arrival, late arrival. Hello, everyone. Share to MIC page. Thank you so much, Auntie Joe. I'm very, very grateful. Alan Hoskins, just checking in. We'll have to catch up later. Walking around the streets of Galway City just now. Hope all well, and compliments of the season. Alan, you lost connection last week and you apologized. There's absolutely no need to apologize, of course. And Claire, I think, was the answer, wasn't it? Yes. What was the other side of the river from you? Alan, enjoy the walk in Galway. Sounds lovely. Hope the weather's nice. And I think it is, because it's quite mild. And sure, look, we'll catch up with you later, as they say. D. Bodell is saying, grandmother used to say with regard to his niece, God bless you and the devil hate you. Same to him. She will appreciate the happy birthday from you, Anthony. Brilliant. Happy birthday. There's a few happy birthdayers around in these days. Anne Scott Doherty is late but present. Greetings all. Yeah, late is great. Especially before we actually, start officially, and we haven't finished the greetings. So I've been wearing the full moon pendant of late. People ask me, what is that? I get asked quite a lot. I wear the Trusk. I haven't got it on me right now, actually, but I wear it pretty much every day. And people say, what's that? And I explain it to them, and I say, you can get your own one. Brenda at Ananda Centre, hey, B, says, Sharon O'Farrell. Hello, Sharon. Donna Ferrer is also in the house. Greetings to all. So good to be connected in this crazy world. We're all swirling around, spiraling around like the spirals. And Sharon is now saying hello to everybody. Hello, Sharon. You're very welcome. Evangeline, a person I know wanted a lightsaber. She asked her husband, where do I go to get one? He told her a hunting and fishing shop. She actually went and asked the storekeeper for one and was telling me how embarrassing I laughed, and she was more embarrassed. I can imagine, yeah. John Inman, I can take the blame. I take the blame for the rain in Northern California. I sang. I don't know what that is. Rorate Kiali. Rorate. I apologize. I don't even know what that is. I ordered a new calendar from you, Anthony, and it arrives on the 20th. Did you? Yes. Checks orders immediately. Sorry, folks. Pardon me for 1 second. We apologize for the interruption in service. Yes, I'm just going to say yes. Contact me after the show just to double check. Alexander the okay. Alexander the okay. I saw a meme, in which his wife or his mother was kind of nagging at him, saying, if only you'd kind of be more ambitious, you could be really great. It was called Alexander the Just Adequate or something. Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Red face, heart shape. Face red, heart shape. Alexander the okay. Brilliant. You're very welcome. That's very funny. Mariana Dunn is late, but a wizard is never late, nor is a Bangia or a Bandri. Banachty dear Tua and Anthony from Alexandria, Virginia. Happy holidays to all. Many happy returns, Mariana. Lovely to see you, as always. I wear my silver Triskel brooch to work as well. Often asked about it, says Anna L. Brilliant stuff. And you say, you can get them on Mythical Ireland. That man, Tom King, who makes them, he's some talent. Good response, Anthony Murphy. You see, I don't know what that's about, because that's like 2 minutes ago. I'm sorry, I apologize. Anyway, we're talking about Newgrange. What's there to say? Oh, there's so much to say about Newgrange. So much to say. So first of all, there's a TV program on this week. You may have seen us sharing information. I say us, many Facebook pages and groups this week sharing information about it. It was. This program on TG Ceathair, or TG4 if you prefer, which is about the search by scientists for a possible second chamber inside the Newgrange monument that hasn't been discovered up to now. And I know that you might be saying, well, hang on a second, sure, wasn't Newgrange excavated in the 1960s and the 1970s? And sure, you know, sure, didn't O'Kelly dig the thing up? And sure, wouldn't he have found anything that was there to be found? And of course, the answer to that is no, not necessarily, because of course, I'm looking for it now so I can tell you more about it, and I can't bloody find it. Hang on, I know where to go. The fact is that actually O'Kelly left a substantial portion of the Newgrange monument unexcavated. Yes, so it's called Rún na Bóinne. It's on the 20th of December, which is 2 days' time, which is Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. It will be available worldwide on the TG Ceathair player afterwards. And there is a preview on YouTube for that. I will share that again later on the social media, on the Facebook especially. And I suspect a lot of you will be very interested. Now, the publicity around the program hasn't said anything about whether they found a second chamber. And I have no information as to whether that's a negative or a positive. But it'll be interesting, I'm sure. Newgrange is unusual in that of the three great monuments at Bhrú na Bóinne, we know that Dowth has two passages back to back, facing towards the east and towards the west, but not exactly east and west, and not actually aligned on the equinoxes like many people have claimed. Dowth has two that we know of, and there are portions of the Dowth cairn that are unexcavated. So Dowth has at least two, possibly more, who knows. Newgrange is only one that we know of. Now, O'Kelly did dig at the rear of the monument behind Curbstone 52, looking for what he thought might be a second passage, and didn't find one. There is at least one antiquarian account of two stones in the chamber where they had moved apart, and a person could see between them and could see into another passage or chamber of some kind. Now, the only thing about those antiquarian accounts tend to be very unreliable, and not to be taken as gospel at all. So my own feeling about it is, if that actually existed, I think we'd know about it, but I don't know. O'Kelly wasn't going to move anything in the chamber anyway. There's just so much. There are so many stones. So I have a lot of stuff to share this week, by the way, including what I am going to be hopefully taking in terms of photographs and video at Newgrange. I have a whole load of stuff lined up to share anyway. One of those is a photograph of the ceiling of Newgrange taken from the floor with a fisheye lens, a photo that I haven't shared before. But anyway, the last time I was in Newgrange, which was Monday, this day last week, I took careful note of the extraordinary measures that they took to build that corbelled ceiling and the small packing stones. And it would be a nightmare to go in there and shift anything. The tiniest movement of a stone, it doesn't bear thinking about, just put it that way. All I can say is I hope that National Monument Service and OPW have carefully laser mapped the entire thing, just in case there is any movement in it at any point. Just got to quickly check. Sounds interesting, says Gordon Farrell. Hello, Gordon. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Just making sure I didn't miss anyone. Caitlin Moon said, I ordered a sun pendant. I guess I need a moon one too. It's a great name. It really is, you know. But where was I? Yes. Talking about Newgrange. Yeah. There's so much to talk about, and I've no notes. So I suppose the biggest revelation of the excavations was that this feature above the doorway, which had been sort of filled in with material until it was excavated, was actually some sort of a light box, an aperture for allowing the sun to not only enter into the passage of the monument, but to enter all the way into the chamber of the monument on the shortest days of the year. Now, we know from a study carried out in the pandemic that sunlight reaches the chamber for a lot longer than we thought before. That is 18 days before and after solstice. So a total of 36 days, or is that 37 if you include the solstice? It's over a month. The sunlight can actually reach the chamber. But of course, those days immediately around the solstice, the sun does this really beautiful thing. And there's a lovely video that I shared on the social media, on the Facebook especially, from the National Monument Service, which incorporates some of the imagery taken during the live streams of 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I'm not sure. And they had a camera up at roof level looking down on the floor of the chamber. Oh, fabulous stuff. So don't forget to have a look at that if you get the chance. So I'm going to just try for a moment to find a few photographs that I took last solstice in the company of An Gabhadh and, of course, an OPW guide, because they're not allowed to leave you alone in the monument for obvious reasons. You have to be supervised even if you're well known. I just want to show you, if you give me 1 or 2 moments here, because I want to open them in. Okay, so what I need to do is just get myself ready for this. So that's one. So I'm going to share these photos with you momentarily, and just preparing for that. Please bear with me. 1 moment, please. This is the BBC. Please do not adjust your television set. Do I sound like a BBC announcer? Like an old-fashioned one, like from the 50s. 50s? Were they even brought? They probably were. From the 60s, 70s? This is the BBC. We now interrupt this program to bring you something completely different. I'm just trying to find the 5th photograph. Oh, yes, there it is. Yes, superb. Good. Right. Now, how do I share these, and what order do I share them in? Yes, quite. Let me, from least dramatic to most dramatic, I think. Now, give me a moment and I'll share that now. Is everybody... Paul Goran is in the house. Hello, Tua Galera. Hello, us. Balya Nahona. Shannon Town. There you go, Paul. Good evening to you. Dead ringer for the BBC, says Kieran. Thank you. A man with 2 buttocks, says Michael Pike. Yes, and now for something completely different. They actually did make a movie called And Now for Something Completely Different. Stop that. It's silly. Okay. Don't forget to order your calendar, says Caitlin. Thank you, Caitlin. Of course. These photos are not in the calendar. This is kind of an exclusive, because I don't think I've shared these all in the same place with anyone except the patrons. Remember that scrolling address that's about to come up there? That one. Severely silly, says Michael Pike. Yes, very silly. Cut that out. Yeah, I want to be a... What was your man come into the office, said he was an accountant and he wanted to be a lion tamer. Yeah. Now, let's go. Share. Screen. Chrome tab. No. Window. Yes. Window. Photos. Okay. So here's the first of 5 images that were captured on the solstice days last year. And again, huge thanks to the Office of Public Works and to their staff, who have a lot of stuff to deal with at this time of year. It's a lovely week at Newgrange. It's also a stressful week for the staff. They're up early. They've a lot to organise and contend with. And I'm grateful to them for assistance in this regard. So this is the eastern or right-hand recess of Newgrange. In the next day or two, I'm going to be sharing a photograph of the ceiling stone that was taken inside that recess. It's a picture that I took several years ago that I've never shared. I have such a backlog of stuff. So watch out for that. I'm going to be writing a blog post about that if I get the time. And so you'll see that there are two metal poles and a rope. Well, the rope is obviously designed just to prevent people from walking into that recess. You'll also see, if you look carefully, you'll see that there's a huge stone on the floor and then what looks like a stone bowl sitting on top of it. Well, this is one of the fascinating things about Newgrange. So the lower stone is, we think, grey wacky. It's a type of sandstone, like most of the structural stones of Newgrange are made of grey wacky, and all of that was sourced at Clogher Head. So it was brought down along the sea and up the river in boats. But the basin is actually made of granite, a very hard stone, to make into a bowl with a concave shape in the top of it. That's Mourne granite, so it's from a long way away. It's from probably 30 miles or 50 kilometers if you're in European values. Yeah, so this photograph, the lighting inside the recess is provided by the OPW. Has the chamber of Newgrange is nicely lit with small spotlights. So the lighting there is provided by them. This lighting is a torchlight, which I set the camera up on the tripod on a timer, take a long exposure, and I light the stones remotely. So that's the right-hand recess. The ceiling stone is actually broke. It cracked at some point. I believe, I'm told, that was a tree root when the trees were growing on top of Newgrange. Okay, so that is one. Next one is... Next one is... I think it's this one. Can't see it because the thumbnail is so small. Yes. This is the left-hand or western recess of Newgrange. So, again, we have a basin stone in the floor of the recess. We have the modern metal poles and the rope to prevent people from walking in there. On the back stone, there are some very large spirals, which are really beautiful. This recess is smaller. It's not as deep, and it's not as ornate, and of course it doesn't have that very decorated ceiling stone. So it's kind of interesting, I need to just share the other one again just for a moment. Sorry, this takes a second. All of this sharing of images takes a moment. So one of the fascinating points about the stone that supports the basin in the eastern recess of Newgrange is that stone is so massive, it cannot have been moved in through the passage into the chamber after everything was built. It has to have been in situ and everything built around it. Amazing stuff. So there's something clearly very important about those flagstones and the basins. The basin stone was moved. Some early photos of Newgrange show it in the center of the chamber, but apparently it was moved there. It had been, so it was originally in the right-hand recess, was moved into the center of the chamber and moved back in again. What else? The concrete pillar. If you see concrete in Newgrange, that's a recent, not necessarily an addition during O'Kelly's works. Some of the supports and that were put into Newgrange were earlier than that. Remember that the National Monuments Act was passed, I think, in 1882. It was definitely the 1880s. And that was the first sort of formal recognition and protection of monuments like Newgrange. There's lots of graffiti inside Newgrange, including in the other recess that I showed you, in large, deeply cut lettering, TB Naylor 1894. So even after the National Monuments Act was passed. Now, just saying hello to Nick Eska Casterton is in the house. Also, many happy returns, Nick. Happy solstice week to you, and happy Christmas. Many happy returns. How's the Fornox book coming along, says Rex. I put it to one side so that I could finish the Segish Companion. I'm intending to get back to it early in the new year to try and get it finished for the spring. So no movement on that in recent times. Mark Gordon is in the house. Hello, Mark. How are you? I hope you're in good form. And did I miss any other? Anne McCallum was in there during the Beast in the East. Only a few people in there because of the weather. Wow. Lucky you. Barb Jordan, happy holidays. Many happy returns. Happy solstice to you. Josie Weatherford is jumping on. How is the Tua? I'll let them answer for themselves, but I think they're in good form tonight now, to be honest. Right. Next. Foho. Why is it only showing me 4? Just give me 1 second. There should be 5. That's annoying. Which one is that? Dang. Okay, look, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Okay, so I'm going to share that one. And that is, believe it or not, the simulated light. They're all nuts out there. The simulated light, not the real sunlight, entering into the chamber. Remember, these photographs were taken probably about half an hour after the solstice guests had been in and either seen a sunrise or seen nothing because it was cloudy. I can't remember. Oh, it was cloudy. That was the day it was raining. No sunlight that morning. So this kind of attempts to recreate what happens on the day. And it's not just the same. It's kind of close, but the light of the sun, of course, shimmers and glimmers. So this is the junction of passage and chamber, where you can see the chamber opens out. But you see the beam is broader in the passage until it hits this last stone. Even the very last stone on the right, as you're coming up the passage, or the left as you're looking out from the chamber, it helps to form that beam, to narrow it down, you know. So one of the things that struck me in one of the photographs that I wanted to get is because this is the view that we've seen so many times in so many publications. The Irish Times and the Irish Independent and the various press photographers who've been in Newgrange over the last, 30 to 40 years, they, of course, get this angle from in the chamber, looking out towards the passage with the light beam coming towards them. And it struck me that, well, actually, how many people have tried to position their camera here somewhere and look back into the chamber? What is actually happening to the light beam? Now, there are photos, and I have some that I will show you, that are wider angle from this view that show the extent of the beam. But I mean, what about standing with your camera at near the entrance and looking back into the chamber? So that is why I wanted to take this photograph, which I'm going to share. Give me 1 moment. 1 moment, please. This photograph, which I'm just going to share now. Kathy May Deo has joined us, by the way. Hello, Kathy May. Happy solstice to you. Yes, and happy Christmas as well. I hope you have a great week. Did I miss anyone? I hope not. If I did, I apologize. Simon Tusafar is in the house. Solstice blessing. Yes, indeed. I wonder, will you be down at Drombeg this week? So here we go. There is the other end of the light beam. And it kind of looks colder, doesn't it? Because a lot of the images looking towards the passage have this golden glow about them. Now, you'll see that in this photo, the light beam extends all the way into the rear of this recess. The real sunrise only enters sort of a little bit to the right of that recess. It doesn't go into the back of it, just towards the front of it. So it has moved, and that's because of the axial tilt of the Earth, the precession of the equinoxes. The obliquity of the ecliptic, actually. It's a slight wobble in the Earth's axis that causes, it's an oscillation that causes the sun's position at solstices to change over the course of time. Now, it's cyclical. So it's moving out of alignment with Newgrange, and gradually, in something like 10 or 15,000 years to come, if Newgrange is still there, hopefully it will be, the sun won't shine in there anymore, but it will come back again because it's a cycle, but a long time into the future. Hope to be there. If it's not a washout with the weather, says Simon about Drombeg. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be at Newgrange the next few days, hopefully the next 5 days, and keep the fingers crossed that we get at least some sunlight. At the moment, the forecast isn't great. So anyway, this is what we see when we look back into the chamber from just beside the entrance from the passage, or the junction of passage and chamber. That's a view I wanted to capture because it's like I haven't seen that before, you know. And the last photo is the one that I was talking about a moment ago, the wide angle photo. So give me one moment and I'll share that. Window. Photos. Share. That one. Now, that's a variant of one I got several years ago, which you'll be familiar with because you'll see it on the Mythical Ireland logo here. So it's similar to that, but different in that I used a wider angle lens, I think a 15mm, and you'll actually see that the light beam tapers out. Now, in reality, the real light beam just touches here. It doesn't come quite so far back into this recess. So the camera is in the rear recess, and the famous triple spiral in the chamber, which was O'Kelly had been told before the excavations that was lit up, that it would be lit up by the winter solstice, or the sunrise at a certain time of year, which people didn't know necessarily was winter solstice. It's not actually directly lit because its face is slightly away from the passage and the entrance. So the sunlight cannot actually strike that stone directly, but lights it indirectly. Now, look, in this case, what I've done is I've lit that on the left with a torch. I've actually used a small torch to illuminate the triple spiral to make it jump out, as it were. But if you look in the visitor center, there is a video on a big screen in a circular room that shows a time lapse of the solstice event in the Chamber of Newgrange, and you'll see in the lower left corner of that video footage, you'll see the triple spiral emerge as the sunlight becomes more brilliant. It's such an amazing thing, you know. Good stuff. Gary is wondering how's the new lighting working out. Great. I mean, you'll have seen, I hope, some of the pictures on Facebook and Instagram. I'm sharing those first with patrons over on Patreon, but I am sharing them also after a day or two with everyone else. Enjoying it so far. Got some interesting results. Some of it's a bit blue and red and a bit garish, but there's this lovely candle setting which produces this sort of warm, flickering candlelight that is nice. A sort of a warm candlelight and a sort of a pale blue, whitish light are very good complements, I find. You know. Do you have cards of these photos? If not, could you make them up? They'd be wonderful solstice cards. Project for next year. Great idea, Lexi. Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Give me one moment while I look for something else here while I'm talking. So anyway, before we carry on, any questions about Newgrange and solstice for me? Very happy to, I think, happy to answer those, depending on what they are. I will do my best. Pardon me for one moment. No, my name is Richard. Oh, that's or Burgess. Sorry. Thank you so much for those great photos. You're very welcome, Richard, and apologies for not remembering. No, not graduated neutral density, Simon. Not graduated. No filters on those. Can this photograph be purchased with the triple spiral? Yes, is the answer. Should be on the website. I will share the link with you now. Yep, there you go. Copy, and I'm going to paste that in. That's Kathy who's asking that. If anyone else is interested, that photograph that he's displaying on the screen at the moment can indeed be purchased. You can get your own print or mounted print of that photograph. Yeah. Pardon me. Ruth Wellborn has joined us from Victoria in Canada. Hello, Ruth. And I see you were sharing photos earlier from Winter Solstice. I think that was 2018, wasn't it? That was the year of the Dronehenge discovery. Yes, indeed. Anyway, I will stop sharing that for a moment. Now, how does the angle and width of the beam change over the 37 days? How long is it? We don't have that detail yet, Brendan, and that is because the project that was looking at the light beam was run by, spearheaded by Frank Prendergast and Claire Tuffy, and I'm not sure who else, but I know John Lawler, who's the photographer for the National Monument Service, was involved. Now, they published an initial article about it in, I think it was Archaeology Ireland some time back, but we're awaiting publication of the detailed paper, as it were, and you can be guaranteed, where Frank and Claire are concerned, that will be full of the relevant detail. So we await that, and it does change, of course, because a couple of weeks before the solstice, the light is only just starting to reach into the chamber, because the sun isn't low enough in the sky, if that makes sense. So we will get that detail, but we don't know it just yet. Martina would love some information on the sunset at Dowth. Thank you. Okay. Well, the sunset alignment at Dowth was officially discovered by Martin Brennan and Jack Roberts, I believe, in the year 1980. There was a lot of sort of toing and froing. Toing and froing is a polite way of putting it. There was a lot of, shall we say, argy-bargy between Brennan and his colleagues and the archaeologists. So Brennan apparently had asked for the Office of Public Works or the Board of Works, as it was called back then, to cut down some tree branches that were basically blocking the light. And when they had done that, he observed it. So I'm going to show you. So on the afternoon, in the evening of the solstice, the shortest days, the sun shines into the southern of the two chambers of Dowth and lights it up. I am going to show you. If you give me another moment or two, I'm going to show you some photos of that. So the gate, I believe, the gate into the chamber is being opened from 2:30 until 4 p.m. on Thursday, the 21st. But that's weather permitting, because Dowth can be very muddy in the winter, and there's public safety concerns. The OPW hasn't made a final decision on that yet, so they'll be deciding that, I think, the day beforehand. So watch out on the official Newgrange Bhrú Facebook page for an announcement on that. Just about to share these photographs. So yeah, you have one monument, Newgrange, celebrating the sunrise on the shortest days, and one not far away, only about a mile and a half away, a couple of kilometers, Dowth, aligning on the sunset. For the days leading up to and after the solstice, is the chamber accessible for the public? Yes. However, the lottery winners go in when the sun is shining in at dawn. When they emerge, everyone else is allowed in groups. So yeah, it's free access, no ticket required, no booking required. Thank you, Gary. Everyone, smash the like button. Yes, indeed. Sorry, I just don't want to. First time on your page other than following on Facebook. Amazing information and crack, says Kathy. Glad you're enjoying it. Brilliant stuff. I just don't want to lose track of the Dowth thing. Would we be allowed, Gemma wants to know, would we be allowed to go to Newgrange for sunrise a few days before the 20th? Yes, from tomorrow, from the 19th to the 23rd, you can be there at dawn. You just can't be inside unless you're a lottery winner at dawn, but you can go in after they've emerged. Yes, is the answer. It's open early. Sorry. So Dowth, let me just share those photographs. Oh, sorry. I hit the wrong button. Click, 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 click. Clicks. I think I said this before. It takes 5 or 6 clicks to get a photo to share. And that's a photo of the sunlight striking the rear of Chamberstone. Can I remember the number of the Chamberstone? Is it C7, C6, C7, C8? So you should be able to. I should know that off by heart. It'll be in my Island of the Setting Sun. And I don't want to knock my my Bridget's cross. I should be able to tell you there now in a second. Apologies. That's Chamberstone 7, C7, yes, indeed. Okay, another photo. So this is a fisheye photo that I'm about to share. Very, very wide angle, something like a 10 millimeter or 12 meter lens. If you photographers know, that's just super wide. So this is a view of, there are like probably 10, 12 of us huddled in the chamber, 5 or 6 on each side. This is the entrance. This is the short passage of Dowth South. And the chamber is circular. And it's not long. It's not a very long passage. It's a short passage, much shorter than Newgrange. Something like maybe 12, 14 feet to 2-3 meters. And this circular chamber. So the sun actually spends a lot longer reaching the chamber of Dowth than it does at Newgrange. It starts at Samhain and doesn't finish until around Imbolc. It lasts for the whole winter. But of course, in midwinter, it shines onto the base of this stone. So you can see that it's a kind of it's not a narrow beam like that in Newgrange. It's a fairly broad beam. And so you see just on the top right of the picture here, you can see that there's the concrete ceiling, because we don't know what the original ceiling was like, because it was probably likely damaged / destroyed during the 1847 excavation or treasure hunt, grave robbing of the Dowth monument. Anyway, this was a funny one because there was a queue of people. There were 50 or 60 people, and they were being let in. We were being let in groups of, I think, I don't know if it was 10 at a time or 12 at a time. And yeah, it was cloudy. It was completely overcast, actually. And when I was in there, um, when we were in there, for about 3 minutes, a gap opened in the clouds and the sun shone in. Brilliant. That's the way it happens. A couple more pictures from that. Here's a close up of. Um, here's a close up of the beam striking the bottom of C7, and you'll see there's actually megalithic art on that stone. You'll see there, and this gentleman here, hunkered down or sitting down, with his back against chamber stone 8, with a camera in his hand, is none other than Mr. Ken Williams, my good friend and companion, colleague, I would call him, actually. Yeah. So, what year was this? 2017. You see the date and the file name there. 2017. So that's 6 years ago. A memorable a day inside the chamber of Dowth. That appears to be. Is it? Have I any more? Oh yeah, I have one more. Hang on. Yeah, I have one more, which is taken looking from the floor, looking directly out at the passage, which is that. And you see, the floor of Dowth is just like a mucky. It's just muck. There's no gravel or concrete or anything like that. In Newgrange, they've put gravel, loose gravel, for visitor comfort and that. Anyway, that's Dowth. Robert Murray asks, what is the connection between Newgrange and Necton, guardian of the Well of Knowledge? Well, of course, Necton was another name for Elkmar, and Elkmar was said to have been the keeper of Newgrange, or the occupier of Newgrange, someone who inhabited it. He changes, or he shares that role with Dogda. It depends on which tale you read. He's known as Elkmar in Tuckmark Etain, the wooing of Etain. But Necton and Elkmar are one and the same being. And he's the one, of course, who guarded the sacred well, Necton's well, or the Well of Sagish, if you prefer, which was the source of the Boyne, and only 3 or his cupbearers were allowed near it. But his wife, Bowen, decided she was going to go near it, and that led to the whole thing erupting and forming the Boyne River. But thank you, Barbara, for the compliment. I enjoy it. I love taking the photographs. Thank you, Simon. There's discussion going on about Indiana Jones. Not sure I want to dive in there. Judy McQueen, hello to you also. Tara Sky Dressler is saying, would love to one day visit Newgrange. Hello from Alberta, Canada. Hello to you. Good afternoon, Tara. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll get that opportunity. What was the most memorable moment in Newgrange in your personal experience? That was seeing the real sunlight coming in 2010. It wasn't a spectacularly brilliant sunlight. There was a watery sunrise outside, so it wasn't full on, but it's much better than the opportunity that a lot of people get, the lottery winners, some of whom travel halfway across the world to be there, and then find that it's cloudy on the day they have their ticket for. Let me just quickly see if I can find, where would they be? Newgrange Monument Immortality. Where are my photographs for that book? They are. Yes, here they are. Towards the light, cave myths, inside the chamber of light. Let me just quickly show you that. Open with photos. Apologies, this is taking a moment. It seems to be my system resources are a little bit low. I'm just checking that there's nothing else open that might be draining resources. A whole lot of photos open, so I'll close the Newgrange ones that I showed you already so that we can show you. Now, share, screen, window, photos, share, loading, show on screen. Yeah, so you can see it's just not on full brilliant. You can see that there's light coming into the chamber. Sorry, Ali, I'll just move your comment out of the way. But it's not as brilliantly vibrant as it should be. However, this is much, much better than, as I said, a lot of dawns at Newgrange at solstice over the years, which are cloudy and there's nothing seen. No sunlight seen. So that's that's one of. I've lots of nice memories from Newgrange. Of course, look, actually being at Newgrange, being the only photographer slash videographer slash live streamer slash writer slash social media broadcaster, whatever you want to call it, who was actually able to go to Newgrange during the 2020 lockdowns. And in fact, I couldn't even go to Newgrange during some of those, because some of those were 2-kilometer lockdowns. But when I was able to, I spent a lot of time at Newgrange in 2020. Now, not inside, nobody was allowed inside. The monument was closed to the public, but out on the road and in the vicinity, and flying the drone around and taking photographs from the fields around it. So that was lovely, because there's just something starkly beautifully lonely about it. It shone in its loneliness, if that makes any sense. But anyway, yeah, 2010, I was in there with my camera in the chamber when the sun shone in. Our guide used a torch in the chamber to simulate a light beam when we visited. Yeah, the simulation, I think, has improved in recent years. I wonder if there was a bad connotation prehistorically if there was no sun visible at sunrise. That has been suggested, actually, and even among the guides at Newgrange, I think they're wary of years when there's no sun seen. Those are the years when bad stuff seems to happen. Amy is saying, do you think Thursday will be the busiest day? Officially, it's Friday. So, although the solstice officially falls in the early hours of Friday, that's the sun's minimum declination. The official day of solstice, according to the celebration at Newgrange, is always the 21st. And I can tell you, Amy, I don't think that Thursday will be the busiest. I absolutely know it. What happens is, that's the day all the media comes. All the cameras, RTE and TGKR and all those, and all the TV, all the newspapers, all the radio, all the country's media come. And I'm not saying that the people who are there, some of them are there only because the media is there, but it's, if like me, you've spent enough years at Newgrange at solstice on the days other than the official day, you'll notice that the official day is very different. There's a crowd that appears, sometimes 1,000 people. And all I can say is that some of them, like me, are very passionate about prehistory and mythology and, the past and history and astronomy and all of that. And some of them are people who you never see at Newgrange except for on the 21st. It's like they're there for the enjoyment of it. It's like they're there for a gig or something. So yeah, it will be busiest on Thursday, and Thursday is the only day where you have to go through the visitor centre, and the queues are very long, and you wait for buses. So get there early is all I can say. Jeannie Foley says, "Great stuff, Anthony. Glad you're enjoying it, Jeannie. Private time with a sacred space. I can't imagine. Thank you." Yeah, I know. And actually, in 2020, there was Dronehenge was 2018. That big discovery. Myself and Ken Williams made lots of discoveries in 2018 during the summer drought. But actually, in 2020, there was an early summer drought. There was a drought in April and May, and it only started raining in June. And there's a post on my website about it, but I discovered a lot of it's not that I discovered, but I mapped or I imaged a lot of archaeology then, features of monuments that hadn't been seen before. Amy says, I've been every year since COVID. I found it very uplifting. I hope to see you. I'll come say hello. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, do that. And that's part of the solstice experience at Newgrange, is meeting so many people. My calendars are on the move. Thanks, Anthony. Mark, I believe they were posted today. Yes, you should have received a tracking number. Anybody's ordering calendars, by the way. We provide, if you're outside of Ireland, we provide tracking numbers for everybody so that you can basically track the movement of your parcel. Now, if you're ordering calendars today, you won't get them for Christmas, but I know that won't matter for a lot of you. If you wanted them for Christmas presents, you would have ordered them before now, but they'll be here. They'll be with you before January comes around, I'm sure. North County Moocher, do Baltray stones align with the solstice? Yes, indeed, they do. That's a discovery made by Richard Moore and Michael Byrne and myself back in 1999. So you can read all about that on the website. There's a couple of posts actually, so I can share the links with you about that. So they're made of shale. They look like they're made of grey wacky, the same sort of stone as the curbs of Newgrange, and they look like they came down from Clogherhead. So who knows? Looks like they might have been put there as way markers, as well as being astronomically aligned, you know. Just making sure I haven't missed. Oh, Peter's in the house. Office Care 36. You should talk to DBS in Dublin and get something wall transfers done with some of these images. That sounds nice. Yeah, I like that. Tell me more about that, Peter, off air, as it were. We'll chat about that. Anyway, what else? So, yeah, Newgrange. There's also some controversy about Newgrange. I'm not intending to delve into that too much. There's plenty of places you can go online these days where you'll see just endless debate and endless giving out about, what happened at Newgrange. I think those of you who are regulars, you will know that the archaeologist who did them died in 1982. He's not here to defend himself. And take it all with a pinch of salt. There was concrete added. Yes, there are some modifications to the monument. No extra stone was not shipped in, apart from the grey stone immediately at the entrance. The white quartz was all original, and all of the rest. We did an episode about this a while back, actually in 2020. I'll share that with you if you want to watch that afterwards, to get an idea about the excavations of Newgrange, the 20th century excavations of Irish monuments were carried out by experts, the latter part of the 20th century in particular. Archaeology is invasive. When you take apart a monument, you can't put it back the way you found it. And there were necessary adjustments that needed to be made at Newgrange to prevent stones from falling on people, because there was an increased number of visitors coming there. So there's that. And then there's the whole question of the roof box being a fake. To be honest, I've given up even talking about that. It's like, it's a circular thing. It's just round and round in circles all the time. It's like, well, yeah, if nobody, I think, looks at Newgrange and goes, it's perfect, right? And nobody looks at Newgrange and thinks that's exactly how it looked when it was built, because we know it likely isn't or wasn't. It didn't look like that. But I think the key thing has to be, when you're looking at issues like that, the key thing has to be is, okay, let's have a discussion about the invasiveness of the archaeology, the use of materials like concrete and rebar and all of that stuff, and the changes that were made to the facade. And let's look at them from the point of view of, well, how can we improve things in the future? How can we make sure that whenever we're excavating monuments in the future, if that happens, what can we learn from Newgrange to help improve that situation? And that's not even to mention Dowth, where a lot more concrete was used than at Newgrange, and lots of blocks of styrofoam to take the weight off the passages. But we go there, and I think a lot of us, not all, appreciate what has been done to facilitate us being able to go there and be inside it. How many of outside of Ireland and Britain and Europe, where we have lots of prehistoric monuments, for instance, in America, in Canada, and in other places, how many people could say that they can go to a monument and stand inside it, and and that monument is more than 5,000 years old, So there is a word that I learned a while back, and I took note of it. It's called anastylosis, and it means the restoration of a ruined monument or building by reassembling fallen parts and, where necessary, incorporating new materials. So they actually have a word for that. Anastylosis. I think that's how you spell it. And I actually learned that word on the UNESCO website, because they were talking about it. And that's what you excavate a 5,000-year-old monument, and you want to improve visitor access, and you want to make it safer for people to be there. You also want to learn about the monument and do the science and learn about the dates. Yeah, and you add some concrete, and people don't like that. It's like, well, I don't necessarily like it either. I actually think Newgrange does have a very clean edge and quite a modern look to it. But a lot of the arguments online are very simplistic. They just look at the old pictures of Newgrange with trees growing out of it and cattle grazing on top of it. They think, oh, look what they ruined it. And I've said this so many times. The fact is that the monument at that time, pre-1962, was in a terrible state. Everything had fallen down. There was trees growing into it. Tree roots were damaging the interior of it. Stones were tumbling down. People could take stones away, quartz and all the rest. They're stuck into the concrete now, so you can't take them away. And it wasn't safe to go into the passage and chamber. It was decidedly unsafe, actually. So, look, anyway, let's not dwell on that. Barbara says, for all who complain about stabilization, they could have shut it down. One of the great cliff dwellings in Arizona has been closed to everyone since 1956. They're worried that the footsteps of visitors will bring it tumbling down. Same with Cairn T at Lough Crew, where there is fear, as it were, of subsidence, collapse. And the biggest problem there, one of the biggest problems, is people keep going up on top of the cairn. Anyway, let's not dwell on that too much. So anyway, Newgrange has, of course, also inspired many writers, poets, artists, musicians, creators, creative types. Newgrange has been sort of a significant, Newgrange and the Boyne monuments and the Boyne Valley landscape. And that is it's just part of the whole purview of the thing. I write about archaeology and mythology and interpreting mythology, and I write about astronomical alignments, but I also have written fictional material inspired by all this. It provides inspiration, never-ending inspiration, actually. It's a wonderful landscape for that, It's really, really brilliant. Irish Tech Thinker, when we crack a tooth and get it filled in, are you ruining the teeth or preservation or preserving them? Well, I think that's a good analogy, actually. Yeah. Lexi says archaeology is very tricky and angers people if things are done to stabilize things. Yeah. And so I suppose there's something to be mentioned. There's something to be mentioned here, which is that, there's a campaign ongoing to have Cairn T, investigated and for work to be carried out to enable it to be reopened. I think that's probably simplifying things a little bit. But, the thing is, when you look at all the bad press especially on social media, mostly on social media, the anger that some people have about, what was done at Newgrange. And then some of the very same people are calling for conservation work to be done at Cairntee. It's like, well, what's that going to look like? What's that going to do to Cairntee's appearance? Because you can't put it, if you take it apart in any way, you can't put it back the way you got it. You have to do something to rigorize, as it were, to stabilize the structure. So, do we ban the use of concrete and rebar and all of that? And I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't. I'm not. I don't have enough expertise in these things. I'm just saying, some of the people who shout the loudest about Newgrange are, also looking for other things to be done. Anyway, so in the Neolithic, so we know very little about what actually happened at Newgrange in terms of what the festivities or celebrations, or maybe they were solemn ceremonies, looked like. We imagine, and that is based upon, what we know in terms of the material nature of the structure, how it was built, what it was built from, the number of people who are buried in there, this sort of fragmented nature of their bones, the fact that some were cremated and some were uncremated. And of course, the big revelation of the past 5 years was the revelation in 2020 that one of the men who had been buried in Newgrange 5,200 years ago had first-degree parentage. His parents were brother and sister, probably brother and sister, maybe father and daughter, or mother and son, but probably brother and sister. Which raises all sorts of questions about the god kings of Egypt and other parts of the ancient world, where something that was taboo was sanctioned by a sort of a ruling elite, a royal family, as it were. And that changes the narrative about Newgrange a little bit. Not just a little bit, I think it actually changes quite a lot. So megalithic art, I've been roundly criticised by certain people for my continued statement that even though there are very good theories about the art, I, for instance, like, and I've written in my books about, for instance, the calendar stone at Dowth representing the metonic cycle of the moon, the 19-year cycle, and calculating the difference between the lunar and solar years. I like the idea that the sun wheels at the stone of the seven suns at Dowth represent possibly depictions of a total solar eclipse, because it seems that there's a total solar eclipse in the mythology of the monument. I like the suggestion, as I've written recently, that the spirals represent the movement of the sun between the solstices. But we can't prove any of it, of course. There's no Rosetta Stone. There's no manual that says this is what it means. There's even nothing in the mythology. The monuments are in the mythology. We have lots of mythology about Newgrange, a lot less about places like Nowth and Dowth, a lot of mythology about the Hill of Tara, for instance, but nothing about the art and what it means. Nothing in the mythology. Not that we know of, anyway. Not that is obvious. So we're left with this artwork that was created 5,000 years ago, and the first writing down of the stories associated with those monuments was 4,000 years later. And the surviving manuscripts are from about from the last 1,000 years, from the 12th to the 16th century AD, actually. So that's a difficult one. And there are very good theories, of course, but that's what they are, is theories. And I've continually said that anybody who says this is definitely what it means, be very careful. It's like anybody who says this is definitely what it means, will show us the absolute proof that that is definitely what it means. Yes, you can make a good case. Of course you can, but that doesn't mean that's definitely what it means. Anyway, as I said, I've been very harshly criticized, actually, personally attacked, actually, by certain individuals about that statement. But I continue to make it, and I stand over it. Samantha Healy is a bit late. Hello, Samantha. You're very welcome. And nobody's late here. And it's a no brown zone. Jules' cousin says, does any sunlight reflection touch the triple spiral? No. And I was talking about that, Jules, when I was showing the image earlier from the chamber. Not directly, only indirectly. We could only have an educated guess, says Samantha Healy. Correct. 100%. We cannot measure ancient cultures by our modern morals, says Lexi. Yeah. And those change. That's another study, by the way, in anthropology. The study of, I'm not sure, Miriam, if I shared your comment earlier, the study of how the perceptions of your era can change the interpretation of ancient monuments and culture. I'll give you an example. I hope. And I hope this... oh, God. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. You know, the whole notion of passage tombs as wombs, passage wombs, places of rebirth as much as they are places of death, stems from the work, of course, of Maria Gimbutas. And in a broader context, the sort of rise of the modern feminist movement, and I've no issue with that at all. For instance, the discussion around megalithic art being similar to the patterns that one sees when one is under the influence of hallucinogenic substances is another thing that you'll have possibly read a lot about in modern literature. You know, there are things that are sort of currently in, I wouldn't even call it fashion because that's dangerous to suggest that, but there are certainly the ideas of the moment can, you know, can inform and influence how these monuments and how their stories are written at a particular moment in time. And that changes as the zeitgeist changes, you know. And actually, it's been pointed out, and sure, look, I might as well say it, in the 20th century, and it's something that people might be uncomfortable with, but in the 20th century, a lot of the archaeologists who would have been carrying out excavations at prehistoric Irish monuments were Catholic. I mean, most Irish people were Catholic in the 20th century, and probably some of them very devout. And one wonders how that might have toyed with their idea of investigating what might have been considered pagan monuments, you know, monuments belonging to a pre-Christian period. Because now I think at the moment in this era, in the early decades of the 21st century, the literature about the monuments is quite secular, whereas we're able to look at these possible spiritual motives and religious aspects of the monuments. It comes from a more secular standpoint. So, for instance, up until, I don't know exactly when, but up until about 20 years ago, what we now call early medieval monuments or early medieval archaeology was called early Christian. Go figure. Biggest party of the year, says Gary. Is that the one at Newgrange? Yes, indeed. No definite in modern archaeology. No. And even when it comes to dates, our good friend, the late Mike Bailey, who only passed away recently, was able to provide a timeline of dates for climate events in Ireland from the bog oak record and the tree rings, which was fascinating. But carbon dating, unfortunately, doesn't give you, you know, this gentleman whose skull bone was found in the excavation of Newgrange in the 1960s, and only in recent years subject to this DNA analysis that found he was the product of a first-degree incestuous relationship. Well, what carbon dating can tell us is he lived in the era of 5,200 plus or minus 50 years or plus or minus 100 years. It doesn't tell us he was born on the afternoon of 3,199 BC on the 5th of June at 4 p.m. It's not accurate like that, you know. Robert Murray says, my mother's family name is Nechtan in Irish. We're told from Alba. We are from Alba. My grandmother told me that we left Alba to come to Ireland 8800 after the Picts were defeated by the Vikings. Wow. Was that around? I'm just not sure. Somebody else may know. Was that the era in which Iona was abandoned and Kells was established? No, that was before that, wasn't it? Not sure. But yeah, that makes a certain amount of sense. Robert, Mayan women gave birth in structures as a passage tombs. And that's another big discussion, birthing chambers. I don't have much to say on that. I'm not a woman. I prefer to leave that discussion to the women, to be honest. Some people are firmly convinced that women gave birth in there. Others will say it's the most uncomfortable space in which to give birth. It's cold, it's dark, it's not sanitary. But then, where was sanitary in the Neolithic, in fairness? You know? John Inman, tombs are known to be a kind of womb throughout the world, certainly among the Native Americans. Yeah, and in fairness, I would say that the idea of Bhrú, Newgrange, Sheed in Broga, She on Bhrú, and that word Bhrú originates from Brug, B-R-U-G, with the H on it, Bhrú, being an abode or a mansion, as in a living place for the gods. That is actually very much alive in the mythology. So you have the likes of Altron Chia, where Angus is organizing for a celebration to be held at Newgrange for Manannán, who's making a trip of the monuments. You have the idea of Dagda roasting the pigs on the spit in Newgrange. So there's that. But then there's also the fact that Bhrú, B-R-U, that means womb, Bhrú na Bóinne, the womb of Bowen. What happens in the mythology? Dagda enters the house of Alkmaar, which is Newgrange, and impregnates Bowen with the child Angus Og. He's conceived as they make the sun stand still. It's like the sky copulating with the earth womb, the earth mother, so I would agree with that. But it comes with the same caveat, which is can't know for sure. It's a good theory, and there are certain aspects of the mythology that back it up. Does that prove it? Of course it doesn't. But yeah, nobody's right or wrong, which makes these subjects fascinating, says Marcus. Well, I said in my Newgrange book, which is out of print. Thanks, Lexi. I don't know. I'll probably still get slagged, but as I said, I've been sort of very harshly criticized by one or two people about my opinions on megalithic art. In my Newgrange book, yes, I said, I think, and I'm, what's the word? Paraphrasing, yes. Tired. I said in my Newgrange book that if we knew all the answers to the questions about Newgrange, it would cease to be interesting to us. We would have very little interest in Newgrange if all the questions that you were asking now had definitive answers. For instance, what is the meaning of the triple spiral? What is the exact nature of the ceremonies that took place there? How accurate were the astronomers, and was it just to mark the turning of the year, or was there a predictive nature? Millions of questions, probably, well, thousands anyway. If we knew the answer to all those, it would cease to be interesting. We wouldn't bother with it. We'd just say, yeah, Newgrange, we know everything about it now. It's the fact that it's mysterious that draws us in, It's the fact that we don't know. And in fact, another thing which is curious and wonderful at the same time is the fact when you ask a question, not only do you generally not get a definitive answer, that question leads to further questions. So it's a continuous burgeoning of questions and mystery, which I believe makes it fascinating. And despite all of the revelations and the discoveries of the past couple of decades or few decades, since the excavations, the discoveries of O'Kelly and Ogan at Newgrange and Dowth, the discoveries of the geneticists, the discoverers of the dendrochronologists, the discoveries of the remote surveying and the drone pilots and all that stuff. All the stuff that's been revealed. Only a few questions have been answered, and that's, for me, it's exciting because it means as long as I've got air in my lungs and I've got thinking capability, I'm going to be continuously fascinated by Newgrange until the moment I draw my last breath. And in fact, I can imagine that as I do so, I'll still be saying, I wonder was Newgrange mainly for the sun, or if it was also, or if it was principally for the moon. I'm seeing some old comments, for which I apologize. This happens every week. Just checking. Germone. Agreed. There's so much that is enigmatic. It leaves us free to imagine possibilities. There are very few absolutes. Most of it's grey. Very little black and white. Most of it's grey, Paul Campbell is saying that he thinks, or he understands, that RTE Lyric FM has 2-hour solstice program this Thursday from 11 p.m. Fascinating. I'll be tuning in. Anthony, is it your opinion, says Samantha? We don't know what we do or know. Astronomy ruled life so much. Not sure what the question is, Samantha. Debbie Sheehy's loving this discussion. Astronomy, I believe, is a huge part of it. And it was the reason I got involved in research in the first place. Was Richard Moore came to me in 1999 and said, Anthony, I think there's more astronomy at Bhrú than, if you read the archaeological texts and the books, than they're saying. And I believe it's to do with much more than just the sun. It's to do with the moon and the planets and the stars as well. That's what got me hooked as an astronomer. It's why Island of the Setting Sun is subtitled In Search of Ireland's Ancient Astronomers. That was my initial route into it, was the fascination with astronomy. And yeah, I believe it was extremely important back then. The only thing is, I'm not sure whether that was all communal knowledge or whether that was some of the complex lunar stuff may have been kept among us. Look, if you've got somebody who's a product of incest, a possible god king, and you've got somebody who's able to marshal the resources to build huge monuments, usually you've got a structured society. I suspect that some of the druids, the chief druids, or the chief astronomers, if you want, had this information that they kept secret and only shared with the king or the ruler of the time and a very small circle, so that they retained the power and the mystique of that. For instance, eclipse prediction. I mean, why would people in the Neolithic want to predict eclipses? Well, part of it is having the power to say that the moon's going to turn blood red in a few nights' time. And that happens, and everybody thinks, wow, those guys in the hoods, those guys wearing the cloaks up there at Sheed and Broga, they told us it would happen, It is your opinion, says Samantha. Don't worry about being slagged. We don't know what we don't know. It's based on some assumptions, educated and based on data we have. Yeah, and I mean, it's just a neutral position. And I am quite predisposed towards the astronomical interpretation. I am predisposed towards the notion that a lot of the mythology of Bhrú dates all the way back from prehistory. And yet some people don't agree with that either. But it's just, why can't we just agree to disagree and continue to be fascinated by it and not adopt an absolute position, such as, this is definitely what this means? And I would say, if somebody says to you, this is exactly what this means, and there can be no doubt about it, well, where are they getting evidence for that? And they must have hopped into a time machine and gone back in time and spoken to the artist to have that level of certainty about it. If there's an alignment with the sun, does that mean there's an alignment with the moon also? And that's a question from North County Mooger. Very good question. And the answer is yes, because the moon has the same ranges as the sun on the horizon and in the sky, but also extends outside of that range. There are times in the moon cycle when the full moon would be shining into Newgrange. Fact. Of that, There is no doubt. That's not something that we can speculate about. That is factual. There are times when the full moon shares exactly the same declination as winter solstice sun. Full moon occurring in the summer, and the moon would be seen to shine its light into Newgrange under the right conditions. That's a fact. Why would you align Cairn T on the equinox sunrise? Might you be aligning it on when the moon is rising due east? And if the moon is full and it's rising in the due east, in due east, what does that tell you? It tells you that the nodes are east and west at the equinoxes, which means the maximum separation is at the solstices, which indicates that you're at the time of the lunar extremes. Lots of stuff there. That's a bit heavy, I understand, for non-astronomers, but yeah, it's a very good question. And yes, absolutely. If you've got any monument that points to an eastern or western horizon within a certain range of azimuths that correspond to a certain range of declinations, will admit the sun. So a lot of monuments admit the sun either at sunrise or sunset, or like Knockrow in Kilkenny, it has a passage that aligns at sunrise on winter solstice and one separately that aligns on sunset on winter solstice. But any monument that accepts the sun, either the light of the sun at sunrise or at sunset, will at some point in the lunar cycles accept the light of the rising moon or the setting moon. Completely correct. All ocean, seas, and rivers have different names, but all contain water. All religions have different names, but all contain truth. Muhammad Ali, one of the great philosophers, also a boxer. Was it astrological, fishing, etc.? Well, I'm not sure, but you see, astrology, we think astrology these days of, people who read tea leaves, should I say. We think of people who say the sun is in this part of the sky and Uranus is in this part of the sky. That means you can have a horrible day, or, Venus is here and this is a love sign, so you're going to fall in love. But what we don't think about is a form of ancient astronomy that was predictive. In other words, looking at when events would happen and looking at the portents of that. So, for instance, somebody mentioned earlier on about the idea that the sun doesn't shine into Newgrange for the solstice. Say for the whole week, there's no sunrise visible because it's cloudy every day. That could be seen as a negative omen, Newgrange has a seal stone laid against the side, says Mark Marnell. It's open for the outrageous amount yearly of paying tourists. Call it what it is. Yeah, well, I'm one of those. I pay to go in there, and I've been in hundreds of times, and I really love it. So yeah, I'm calling it what it is, but I'm being honest. I love it. I think we'd be a lot poorer if we didn't have the ability to go in. But I understand too the idea of conservation. If we really want to conserve monuments for future generations to enjoy, then leave them, shut them. Don't let anybody in. That is an argument. Absolutely it is. And the only other thing I'd say about that is there are a certain amount of people who, and I've encountered it online, who say, that you shouldn't profit from. But I mean, it's not exactly profit. I mean, the OPW is a branch of government. It's not like a profit-making company, and they hire a lot of staff. There's a lot of people who make a living from the fact that visitors come to Newgrange. Should you ban it because people shouldn't make a living? Should all tour guides suddenly start doing something else? You could extend that argument out. The one thing is that the number of visitors in the monument has been reduced since the pandemic. The number of visitors on each tour has been reduced. It used to be 2 bus loads on every tour in the summer. Now it's only 1 bus load. So instead of 48 people on every tour, it's 24 people on every tour. It's made tickets harder to get. Newgrange is harder to get into these days. So Mark is also adding, look at the wearing on the base of the stones. That's exactly, I can't argue with that. You're right. People have been brushing against the stones for decades and decades and decades. And gradually that's causing the surface of the stones to have a sheen on them and a shine and a polish, and it's wearing them. So yeah, not arguing with you. Call it what it is. Is it outrageous? Perhaps. And perhaps the people who built it, particularly, everybody's opinions will be different, of course. But the people who built it, I've often said, if they could come forward into time and see now what's happening, I think they'd be horrified, because I think the interior of the monument was only for the select few. I really do. I think the interior of Newgrange was sacred ground, that the ordinary folk were not allowed to, as it were, defile, if you want to talk in religious terms, But yeah, there's all of that too. From Heritage Ireland, Paul Campbell is saying, live radio broadcast from Cage of Fields on Lyric FM. Brilliant. So we shall be listening to that, Paul, and thank you for sharing that information. Evanieli, I love this quote. Miles Coverdale, it shall greatly help ye to understand the scriptures, if thou mark not only what is spoken or written, but of whom and to whom, with what words, at what time, where, to what intent, with what circumstances, considering what goeth before and what followeth after. Yeah. Another way of looking at it is, don't just believe everything you're told or everything you read. Initiation into their priesthood, perhaps, says Heather Marie. When you said Manannán took a tour of the Boyne, made me think it could be. I think it was actually a tour of Ireland, the She Mounds of Ireland, not just the Boyne ones. Made me think it could be metaphorical, the astrology/myth pilgrimage route, maybe. Yeah, I know, right? And in fact, Newgrange was specially decorated for the occasion. It had rushes placed on it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking, it's 10 to 10. I mean, I just don't know where that night is after going. And I actually haven't touched on half the stuff I wanted to touch on. Don't forget that program on Wednesday night. It's going to be available on the TG4 player worldwide afterwards. I'll watch it, of course. Might do a live stream after it, depending. I know we did that with DNA Culture that Moncon McGann hosted a couple of years back. The revelations about the DNA and all of that. So there's that. Don't forget that the OPW is having a live stream from inside Newgrange on the morning of the 21st. That starts at 8:45 a.m. Irish time, I understand. If you're in the States, the East Coast is 5 hours behind Ireland. So if you were intending to watch that, that's 3:45 a.m. if you're in New York. But it's actually 45 minutes past midnight if you're in California. So it's go to bed early and get up early stuff for the States and Canada. For the rest of us in Ireland and Europe, it's fine. There's just so much more. The other thing is, there is a lot of stuff coming on social media. There's a lot of stuff coming on Patreon. Please do consider becoming a patron and supporting the work of Mythical Ireland. I've got a lot of pictures, blogs, the Moncon podcast, which was recorded at Samhain in Clonakilty, is available for patrons now over at Patreon. And also I have on Friday, I mentioned already, but just to let you know, actually, just be careful. Let me just check before I finish how many tickets are left for the 10:30 a.m. Winter Solstice tour of Fornox. That is this coming Thursday. Let me try and book a ticket now just to see how many are left. 12 left. Yeah, so there are still tickets available for that tour if you're interested. That's on the Mythical Ireland website on the tours page. Lexi, thank you very much for your continued support. Lexi is a patron. Actually, lots of people watching tonight. Sheila Gunn, who dropped in earlier on to say that she didn't know if she could stay around, is a patron. Paul Goran, your most captivating talk to date for me, Fornox included. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, and there's so much, as I said, really, actually, genuinely only scratching the surface. only scratching the surface. We could talk for many, many, many hours about Newgrange and not exhaust what there is to be talked about. Kathy says, excited for the possibilities. Blessings to you. May need to purchase your books. Brilliant, yes. And if you purchase them on the Mythical Ireland website, of course, Kathy, just to say, we post worldwide, and I will sign personally any books that you order to you. And Marcus is saying, hit that like button too, especially, yes, if you're on Facebook, share it and like it. If you're on YouTube, like it. Wonderful episode. Thank you, Anne. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Love seeing your absolutely gorgeous photographs together with your tremendously interesting and knowledgeable comments and descriptions. Goodbye, all. Happy Winter Solstice. Yes. And there's at least a few pictures of Newgrange that I have that I've never shared before that are coming up in the coming days as part of my Mythical Ireland Solstice Week coverage. So keep an eye on the social media. If you're on Facebook, the main page is the Mythical Ireland page, but don't forget there's the Mythical Ireland community group where you can post and interact much more than you can on the page. And then if you're on Instagram, we're on Instagram as well. We're on the new threads as well. We're on Twitter. I don't use Twitter so much, and I've never seemed to have been able to get the same following on Twitter that I have on the others. And don't forget, we're also, most importantly, on YouTube. There's 1,500 videos on YouTube. Gary Slonall, be safe. Good evening to you. Thank you, Adrian. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Amazing evening. Thanks so much, sir. Thanks, Lily. I hope you're in good form and well. And yeah, Lexi, that's a good question. And actually a good point. Only for 10 or 12, yes. I mean, anything more than that is not comfortable. And Fornax is much larger. Open for the masses, maybe. I know, right? Fornax floor area of the chamber is 3 times larger than the floor area of the chamber of Newgrange. Something to think about. Do we think the Druids had, and any known interpreters of the stars, had any bearing in cycles for the year? Yeah, but again, that's the stuff we can only speculate about. What we know is very, very little. What we absolutely know is puny. I think we only know for certain 1% of the story, which makes it again fascinating. Elaine, thank you. Yes, indeed. I wish the monuments in Glendalough were as protected as Newgrange. We need to protect our past, makes us who we are. Yeah, and plus we have to remember we're only passing through. There'll be people in future who'll be able to hopefully visit all these monuments as well. Anyway, I better go and say goodnight. I'll be at Newgrange in the morning. I hope to do a live stream. If it's not raining, looks like it could be. Fingers crossed. Keep the fingers crossed for good weather, for sunshine, and watch out. As I said, hopefully in the coming week, lots of posts, lots of photographs, a few live streams, a few videos, and lots of interesting stuff about the past, which we're all in love with, I think, here on Mythical Ireland. Thank you. Good night. All that remains for me to say for now is Ichawach Kulasov. Slán go fóill. That means good night, sound sleep, bye for now. And most importantly, thank you, Wayne. The one that I always say at the end, Tog go bugé, which means take it easy. Happy Solstice Week. We'll see you hopefully from Newgrange in the morning. Some of you won't be around, I know, because you'll still be in bed, because that will be around 8:30 or 9 a.m. Irish time, which will be, what did I say, 3:30 in New York, 4 a.m. in New York. Maybe the West Coasters will stay up, before they go to bed. Anyway, John J. Murphy, I don't think I'd said hello to you earlier. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed that. And happy solstice to you and all yours. Good night. Thanks for all the interactions. And don't forget to check out the website, order your calendar. And if you're in Ireland and you're interested in the Fornax tour, good night, Tom. If you're interested in the Fornax tour, book a ticket before they're all gone.